Once a man was struggling with depression. He came from a family where people achieved. His renowned father and both of his siblings had done much with their lives, and depression and illness weighed him down as he had what he would later realize was a struggle with meaning. From this experience, William James would write, I think that yesterday was the crisis in my life. He realized that understanding the why of his circumstances was not as important as the how to work towards his own well being, and as part of that, the well being of others. And then he found this definition of free will, the sustaining of a thought, because I choose to when I might have had other thoughts. And he concluded, my first act of free will shall be to believe in free will. That shift liberated him. And William James, sometimes thought of as one of the parents of modern psychology, began his ferocious body of work. He was also interested in the ways that religious experience helps us shape and dream our world. Good to remember this week as we go into another of these sheltered months. On top of a disturbing year when rational people could actually be forgiven for wondering if we have control over our dreams and aspirations and if they have any influence. We might, in fact, wonder if we can, in fact, dream a world. William James wrote in the Varieties of Religious Experience, a text I pored over as part of my own early religious exploration, that religion teaches us how to make our own choices and also to give us space for that which defies words. In this week, we walk through what we know, change, and what we don't know, which is what can be in the future. And it's good to be reminded of both our agency and our place in that larger mystery. The late poet Maya Angelou writes, we, this people, on this small and drifting planet, whose hands can strike with such abandon, that in a twinkling life is sapped from the living, yet these same hands can touch with irresistible tenderness, that the haughty neck is happy to bow, and the proud back is glad to bend. Out of such chaos, of such contradiction, we learn that we are neither devils nor divines. Being distanced, sheltered, isolated as we are, seems to bring into sharp relief the values that we have, the choices that we make, the ways that video meetings bring us sort of face to face with others in a more intimate and disturbing way for some. Neither devils nor divines, we yet still can choose meaning, even in these times. In Jean Sabata's play, Hold These Truths, a virtual performance which I got to see through a generous gift, Gordon Hirabayashi, one of the Japanese Americans who fought the internment all the way to the Supreme Court and lost, says, I seek to live as though the ought to be is. I seek to live as though the ought to be is. These times invite us to think about the ways that we wish to shape our own world within this world. Colin Ketchum, who is one of our tech team heroes, taught me about the frame within the frame, that small image in the larger one. We don't have to understand why we are in this pandemic to know that we have choices of how we want to live within our own little boxes. And I don't mean just the ones that we see hour after hour on Zoom calls or family Zoom calls, but we can choose what streams we water. We have the ability in these times to recognize that we are all children of the earth and children of one family. The quick way that blue skies returned among us and the return of our animal neighbors reaffirms the huge impact that we have on our planet. And by the way, yesterday when I took the pictures that were part of our call to worship, I had to twice avoid the same goose who had claimed the middle of Broadway in Walnut Creek as his own particular landing strip. We know now that no one should be a stranger or a guest, as Miranda sang in our invocation. Hirobayashi acted as he did because his values were shaped by his beliefs. He believed in his rights under the US Constitution. This even after the Supreme Court denied his rights. He served his time. His family emerged from the camp into a world transformed with continued segregation and all their possessions lost or stolen. He still had a choice, and he made a powerful life. Marrying, having children, and 40 years later, his conviction was overturned and his faith in his dream vindicated. Life, especially life in these last few months, has taught us all what some of us have known for a long time, that not all is within our control. And it is in the spirit of that Islamic prayer which Reverend Renoir offered us this morning, and which was also part of that virtual vigil for lives lost on Friday. We are all coming to understand that the balance between choice and surrender, which William James pointed out so many years ago, is part of that religious journey. In the middle of an incomprehensible time, the search for meaning is always a little bit vague. But in a text exchange after our video session, Autumn said that while he's still struggling to see what he can actually choose to do differently in this time of disappointments as a senior, he still suspects he will now be better equipped to be more flexible when life brings changes in his future. Blogger and author Mark Manson notes that when he talks about values, which he defines as the metrics by which we measure ourselves and everybody else, people listen. Mark is a 30-something who was one of the generation that emerged from college into the great economic void of 2008 and who has never known economic stability. He says we have been coerced as a society into thinking we only have a good life if it is one without problems or pain. So I guess if we're going to have technical issues, this is a great day to have it, right? But he writes, if you want to change how you see your problems, you have to change what you value and how you measure failure or success. If we measure the value of our life only by being able to do the things we were able to do 2 months ago, then we shortchange our own free will because our free will is not hampered by the walls around us or the masks we will wear for the foreseeable future. I Dream a World. That is the title of a book by Brian Lanker, who is a photographer, and his work, which was subtitled Black Women Who Changed the World, is full of portraits depicting the incredible beauty and risk of these courageous women who had to wrest their own values and its place from a hostile world. We don't, as Unitarian Universalists, believe in some master plan where all has meaning. We do believe we always can choose the how and base it on our values. Let's keep dreaming and making those small choices which give our dreams form and function even in these days, and which remind us of the values that guide our lives as if they were up there in the heavens like one of those stars we see so brightly right now. And I leave you today with the words of Maya Angelou. We, the people on this wayward floating body, created on this earth, of this earth, have the power to fashion for this earth a climate where every person can live freely without sanctimonious piety, without crippling fear. When we come to it, we must confess that we are the possible. We are the miraculous, the true wonder of the world. That is when, and only when, we come to see it.